Welcome to the first edition of Mr. Egg Germ's Behind the Music. Welcome to the first edition of Mr. Egg Germ's Behind the Music. Welcome to the first edition of Mr. Egg Germ's Behind the Music. Welcome to the first edition of Mr. Egg Germ's Behind the Music. We're going to talk about this new track, Kiss Me, Hug Me. We're going to talk about this new track, Kiss Me, Hug Me. We're going to talk about this new track, Kiss Me, Hug Me. We're going to talk about this new track, Kiss Me, Hug Me.
Kiss me, hug me, let me know.
Kiss me, hug me.
Kiss me, hug me, let me go.
Let me go.
You know I love you. Kiss me, hug me, let me know.
Kiss me, hug
I love you. Kiss me, hug me, let me go. But I gotta go. Kiss me, hug me, let me go. I just want to kiss you. Kiss me, hug me, let me go.
We were something brand new, something I hope that was true. Now I'm thinking about all the times we had when you didn't come through.
Kiss me, hug me, let me know.
Kiss me, hug me.
Kiss me, hug me, let me go.
Let me go.
All right, so that is Kiss Me, Hug Me. And so Marshall, well, here, let's introduce ourselves real quick. Marshall, you want to just give us a brief rundown?
Okay. Marshall Titus. I am originally from Chicago, but I'm living in Hamburg, Germany now. I've been here. This is the beginning of my 9th year. And the last time I was in Chicago, which was 2019, I got together with my friend Rick, who I hadn't seen in many, many years. And Rick said, "Hey, I got this track. You want to play around with it?" And so that's essentially what happened. And then the day after that, I flew back to Hamburg. That was my last day in Chicago. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that was such a great, quick, kind of spontaneous session that we had, and I remember I had just kind of written that the piano riff at the piano, and just kind of quickly put some drums around it, some bass, and I had you over. And I remember you were just kind of looking for a riff to vocal idea. And
Yeah.
I think I heard you say "kiss me," and then I thought, well, what did everybody say? "Kiss me, hug me," and then I th- I just had this idea that we would say "let me go" instead of. Um,
Whatever. Kiss me, hug me, let me know, kiss me, hug me.
Yeah.
Uh,
so
kiss me, hug me.
and
Yeah, but it ended up being this.
yeah, the hook. And what I loved about the idea was that I saw this kind of arc in the like the story, that this would be the song would have an arc of starting from this "kiss me, hug me, let me go." It's kind of a split up, and then a reconciliation, and then in the end you flip the vocal to "kiss me, hug me, don't let go."
Mhm.
And throughout the verses kind of tell the story of that kind of arc, and then the bridge where you guys kind of do this duet, a cappella duet. That was kind of the culmination of, okay, we're going to make this work. Here we go. So that was my take on it. Tiffany, we brought you in for awesome vocals, and you want to talk a little bit about what you're up to?
Sure. Hey, everybody. Um, Rick introduced me as Tiffany Collar, and that's okay. Collar is my surname, but my stage name is my first and middle name, which is Typhanie Monique, as shown here in the Zoom land. Um, I've been on the scene for a hot minute in Chicago, starting out with the acid jazz days at the Note in the Double Door, and practically lived every Sunday night at the Elbow Room, almost 2 nights a week. So I very much come from a live performance vibe. Also, very heavy on the jazz scene here in Chicago, and that's what I've been doing. I would say more full time for the last 10 years. I've known Rick. How old is Malia now?
20 years
Right.
old.
20, his daughter. So, I'd
Wow.
say 18 years. I mean, I was giving his daughter piano lessons when she was 4. And
Wow.
and so Rick and I have been collaborating over the years as under his name, Mr. Egg Germ, and released a bunch of singles out. So it's been fun collaborating with him over the years. And I've heard about Marshall for years and loved his voice and was excited to be able to um, share the energy and talent on a tune with him. So when Rick came and mentioned if I wanted to drop some vocals on here with Marshall, I was like, yes, let's do it.
Yeah, that worked out so well, I thought. And though, we should all know that these vocals were recorded thousands of miles apart, even though they are singing a duet at least in the bridge.
This was my first real virtual singing and duet, definitely. But
Yeah.
This was sort of new for me too.
Right on. So then that brings us to Jean Leroy, percussionist extraordinaire. And when I brought this track to him, I originally was thinking maybe some congas. He's versed in lots of different Latin percussion styles and instruments, and he had this idea to bring in a different drum, which I'll let him talk a little bit about.
Yeah, my name is Jean Leroy. If you look in the tag, my full actual name is Jean-Christophe Leroy. It's become John Leroy since I moved to the States.
Can you say the
Chicago
French again,
vibe.
because it's real sexy.
Yeah, I'll do it slow. Jean-Christophe Leroy.
Leroy. Jean-Christophe Leroy.
I will never call you Leroy again.
It's John Leroy is okay,
Leroy.
17 years, and like Rick said, I play percussion and drums. I'm pretty focused on Afro-Cuban music. I met Rick on one of my, probably one of the first 2 or 3 gigs I did in town was at the District with a group called Mr. Ali. I met Rick, and he said, hey, I guess he liked my playing because he invited me over to play some tracks for his, some Mr. Egg Germ stuff. And it turned out to be one of those days where, he put me in the booth and I was sort of messing around with the track. And I said, okay, I'm ready to go. He goes, no, we're good. I got it, man. That was the start of
Always record.
yeah, so that was recording relationship with Rick. And
actually, that was a Marshall Titus track, I believe. It was Big Dreamer. Was one of the first that we worked on.
okay,
Wow. And what year was that?
17 years ago. Yeah, I go by my son's age and Rick's son's age. That's how I gauge how long I've been.
Okay.
So it's been about 17 years or so. And I congas, congas is one of the go-tos when you're playing percussion, but there's so many other things you can do. I know we were messing around with Gehrenbeck and a few other things with Typhanie about 6 to 8 months ago. You'll hear a lot of percussion colors, wind chimes, and bells, and shakers, and all that stuff. But when he played me this track, the thing that popped into my head was this instrument back here, if you guys can see them.
The blue, is it blue? Or is that the, no, it's the, okay.
3 different drums on a stand, because normally you play these, they're called bata drums. And normally it's played by 3 different people, one on each drum. And it's a percussion ensemble. The drums interact with each other melodically and rhythmically. And I tracked it that way. I played one part, then I played the second part, then I played the third part, because then you can get every single note. Rick asked me to demonstrate a little bit how they work, and because of COVID, I'm not inviting other drummers into my house today.
Right.
So I put them all on this stand. Do you want me to talk about this now, or do you want to?
Sure. Yeah.
So the lead drum, can you guys see and hear these okay, first of all?
Well, we hear them for sure.
Okay.
And Jean, can I ask you where do they originate from?
They originate from Nigeria, from the Yoruba people. But this is the version that's used in Cuba because, as a result of the slave diaspora, a lot of Yoruba culture has ended up in Cuba. So the religion Santeria, which comes to the Yoruba, is practiced in Cuba a bit differently. It's evolved differently. Similar but different. It's they've been displaced and things.
A hybrid kind of thing.
The drums are similar and the rhythms are similar, but it's evolved and sort of taken its own path a little bit. So they're used primarily for religious purposes, but not exclusively. Like I said, there should be one drummer on each drum. The largest and lowest pitched drum is the lead drum. The middle drum, which is so this is the Ia, this is the lead drum. This is the middle pitch drum, the totole, and then the highest one is the kontolo. And each drum has two sides, so you end up having, each drum has two heads, so you end up having six different rhythms happening. I can only, it requires 6 hands to be done properly, but
Yeah, maybe just take them one at a time.
yeah, I still only have 2 hands. So one drum, which I'm playing a pretty simple rhythm for this track. They can get real complicated, but when you're playing percussion on non-Afro-Cuban music, you're not going to play every single note that you normally play. You got to leave a little space for the rest of the music. So the part of the lower drum I played was very simple. It was about at this tempo. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put something on my foot so you guys can hear the time. So, here's the low drum. Here's the middle drum. Here's the high drum. So if I put the lowest and the middle together, it sounds like this. If I had the high drum, you get that. So
You don't need any other players, baby. You got that all on your own.
Okay.
and the hand.
Why'd I waste those 6 tracks on you?
Exactly. But sit on that. So
Wow.
that was the approach.
Yeah. Love it.
If you want to find a part, like maybe in the breakdown, people could hear that happening in the music a little bit. If you want to demonstrate that in the track.
Let me do that. I just stopped sharing, but I'll share again.
Baby, let me go.
Kiss me, honey, let me go.
Kiss me, honey, oh.
Kiss me, honey, let me go. Don't let go, don't let go.
Everything is heart and soul. Every time we can't let go. All the time we grow and grow. When you touch me, don't let go.
Kiss me, honey, let me go. Let me know. Kiss me, honey, don't let go. Don't let go, don't let go. Kiss me, honey, let me go.
Yeah, that's so cool. And I think actually I can. Whoa, what happened here? Sorry. I can go to the outro. It has it kind of dialed in.
With all the cool effects.
Yeah.
I thought it was a sampled loop that he got from someplace.
Yeah, so that was
Well,
a perfect compliment.
cool.
I'm really happy that Rick likes to use real live percussion rather than sampled loops. You know, it even if the loop is of a real player, it's still not the same as having a real player who's reacting to the music.
Right.
You know, so you still can't,
Exactly.
you still can't, you still can't match that, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And for me, because the drums obviously are
I agree.
programmed, there is there's got to be at least one live thing going through there. Otherwise, yeah, the song has no soul for me. But
Yeah. No,
so yeah,
I totally agree.
I've always tried to use John whenever I can afford him.
Yeah.
All right. What else were we going to talk about here? Well, I guess Marshall, I could talk a little bit about our first collaboration because that is kind of where our relationship started. Was I think I was playing in a band with you, or
Yeah. How did we first? You were working with with
I think
Jerry Johnson.
yeah, it's Clyde and the gang, right? The um,
Yeah.
Sumo?
And
no, it was like Aaron Jazz.
no.
Oh, Aaron Jazz.
But anyway, then so we shared the stage. A
And
few
then
times. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I remember. I remember a really cool gig we did at the. Uh, is it the Buddha Lounge that was on?
Grand, yeah.
Yeah, it was at Buddha Lounge, and you, Clyde Lamar's on bass,
There, yeah.
Javier Gonzalez on percussion.
Okay. Yeah.
That was yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Are we
Yeah, I can hear you.
okay? Yeah, yeah, and I think that was in '98,
Wow.
and yeah,
So
yeah.
Big Dreamer,
So
yeah,
yeah, it's been
I think that came around right around that time, 99 maybe. And
was it '99?
I
Wow,
don't know, it may have been.
at least '99, 2000, 2000 at least,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. So we did what?
Uh,
We did Big Dreamer, we did Do Thing, we did, I think we had like 4 songs or so down.
those are the two that I
Yeah.
remember the most. Wow, amazing.
Question, Rick.
Yeah.
You know, we met a week or two ago and we were talking, and an interesting topic came up for me because I had never really discussed it with you, even though we play and work together so much and even hang out and play tennis and go camping with our kids. But I had never really heard you explain, you know, the concept of Mr. Egg Germ.
Oh.
Putting it just in a box of house, I felt like a cool way to explain to us last time.
Oh yeah. So
Really hear it.
well, Mr. Egg Germ, the words are, you know, as most of you probably understand, it's a palindrome. That came out of a strange word exercise that I was working at a bank, and it was a quality control, like a full day seminar on quality. And one of the tasks was to build an egg drop. You know, like you get some popsicle sticks, some rubber bands, and you gotta put an egg in there and drop it and see that it protects the egg. You have to market this thing, and so I was tasked with naming it. So I took the word egg and I saw, oh, this could be a palindrome, Mr. Egg Germ. It just kind of came to me. So that's where the name comes from. But the concept that I was talking about before, I think that you referenced, I called the music organic funk technology. And for me, it was kind of like those words say, organic, in that I love real instruments, I love real playing, percussion, drum, everything. You know, if I could have all live musicians, I would. But as a studio producer, you know, that's not always possible. So that's where the technology comes in, and the funk has just always been my kind of go-to musical expression that I've loved, and ever since I heard Herbie Hancock. You know, I think the record was called, actually, my studio is called Palm Grease Studio, and Palm Grease is a track on one, or like a 1974, I think it is, Herbie Hancock record called Thrust. And actually, Typhanie, that I sampled that drum beat from Palm Green on what was the name of that song? Bring Me Life or Bring Me Love? What was it? No, Bring Me Life. Yep.
Bring Me Life.
Yeah. So, in a nutshell, that's it. Organic funk technology is just my way of trying to explain what I do. I have kind of. I fell in love with Chicago house music when I came to Chicago.
Where you originally from?
I was born in New York City, but I grew up in downstate Illinois, Bloomington Normal.
Okay.
Yeah, and so Tiffany was one of the first musicians I met in Chicago. You know, hanging out at those clubs and
Same here.
yeah, right. And then actually, Tiffany, let's plug the BMC. That's been a super fun project, and a lot of kind of side projects have come out of that as well.
Yeah, BMC. You know, so for years, a bunch of us had either sat in, you know, or participated in a band called Sumo, which was at this Elbow Room every Sunday night. Jerry Johnson, Clyde Davis, Bob Long was in that with me, Mike Levin, Craig Sunken, a variety of singers, Kelly Allison for a while, Dave Hildebrand on bass, or Lamar. You know, I mean, so many.
Yeah, Dave.
Yeah. And it was all improv. So the whole night, you know, someone would yell out a key and start a groove, and at times, you know, you'd have to move on to the next tune because the inspiration just wasn't there. But overall, there was always that kind of, as Rick says, organic funk soul vibe. You know, some days or some tunes could be more hip hop influenced, some could be more jazz influence, but they certainly sat in that kind of Black American music improv genres, right? And then with 4 on the floor beats with house. So that was Sumo, and I mean, I loved it. I lived for that Sunday night gig, and it had been
church.
Yeah, gospel influence. It had been a long, I don't know, a few years, and I just wanted to bring that back. I love jazz and I love improvising. So, but I wanted to bring back a larger band, the funk thing, and so then the Booty Movement Coalition was created, and a lot of the similar cats, because we wanted to shake some booties. You know, and it was rhythm section with horns. One of my favorite shows was Halloween at Martyrs, and Rick dressed up as Aquaman, Tim Sizer was Batman, and Dave Sanger was Robin. It was ridiculous. These guys are like 3 peas in a pod.
Oh my God, you have photos of this?
I was Catwoman, that's right.
Fortunately, there are, I think, somewhere.
There are. If you look on Facebook, you can peep it out. So... Wow. And then JQ was basically my co-lead, and he was an MC. Very talented cat from a group called the Q Brothers, and they can be seen on Chicago Shakes because they do a whole bunch of. They take Shakespeare and do adaptations, so they're really brilliant. But yeah, and it was a blast. So he was a part of that, and then from there we've together written for Disney, Bizarredvark. There's a song, if you look it up, Lemonade. We've done some work for McDonald's, writing and producing some tunes. So it's.
Yeah. Sorry, I was trying to find an image.
But yeah, the BMC, it was just, you get up there and you sing about the week.
Yeah.
That's what I love.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I don't know what the subject line is, but it's whatever I've gone through.
I loved, that. It was improvised. I would often come to the table with some ideas, like I would.
Have some chord progressions.
Some progressions, and try to communicate those on the fly. Because there was no charts were shared or anything. It was just kind of just do it, and you got to listen. And some nights were better than others, but always there was not one of those gigs that didn't have some jam in it. And yeah, we have another track that we're going to maybe do something like this for in the future called Shy Tribe that came out of that band. So, anyone else have anything else to add? I think we can wrap this up.
Well, I have a question.
That's cool.
I have a question. I would love to know from each of you. I mean, Rick, you just said something about Herbie Hancock, but as artists and musicians, I mean, where we are now in our lives. But when you first got started, like who were some of your biggest influences?
John.
Well, my first jazz, I mean, aside from as a child, the regular radio stuff that we all listen to, I think we're more or less within the same decade or so of each other. So there's a lot of the same things on the radio, but my first explorations on my own outside of that were into jazz, and my first step into that was Thelonious Monk, which I thought was a pretty cool way to start. It opened my ears pretty fast. But then, of course, as I got interested in, percussion from other parts of the world, all of a sudden, I'm traversing the globe with my ears. So it went all the way to Cuba and, Latin jazz, but in an Afro-Cuban vibe, or West African music and Brazilian music. So it didn't take long before I was all over the place. These days, I'm pretty focused on pretty traditional stuff, like real traditional folkloric music from Cuba. But it's always interested me how that stuff mixes in, how guys use it, like in Weather Report or Herbie Hancock. There's always a percussionist there, and usually it's a cat who's familiar, who's rooted somewhere else in the world, and is figuring out a way to put that in musically, rather than just pasting his stuff on top of it. He's trying to figure out a way to what to leave in and what to take out to make it all work together. So that's my long answer.
Nice.
Who's next?
You're up, Marshall.
Well, I think I've been around here a bit longer than most of you all. But in terms of pop music, my first inspiration was Smokey Robinson. And I used to do my Smokey Robinson impressions when I was little. And then the very first concert I went to by a pop group or popular act was the Temptations with Gladys Knight and the Pips at the Medina Temple, and so and it was right at the time, right after Eddie Kendricks left, Paul Williams left the group, and they had just got then Richard Street and Damon Harris, and Paul Williams was sitting right next to me in the audience because he was still traveling with them, hanging out. But also, I started out as a child listening to classical music. My uncle used to play classical music, and then my sister, what are you listening to? You need to be listening to WGRK, which was an old black radio station in Chicago. But then I started listening to a lot of people. I sang at church. My church was not gospel; it was congregational, and I would sing a lot of spirituals and hymns. And then I got into theater and was with Free Street Theater for a couple of years. Several musicals, won a Joseph Jefferson Award for production of Dreamgirls that I did several years ago. Yeah, a lot of. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you. I remember as a kid in Bloomington Normal, I could hook up my stereo to the cable, the TV cable, and allow me to get a cable radio so I could pull WBMX, the Chicago station.
Oh yeah, yes.
I would make tapes. I would make tapes of their whatever it was. I don't remember what night it was, but they would do house and more in the breakdance culture. That was the years when I was just in love with anything.
So you're talking about the early 80s, mid 80s?
Mid 80s, yeah.
Yeah.
Early to mid 80s, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, I had this. Oh, it's no longer in the studio. I used to have this old Magnavox boombox, the one that had 3 speakers, put one in the middle, the cassette in the upper corner,
Mm,
and
wow.
I would bring these tapes to the park and with my little patch of cardboard and spin on my back.
How about you, Tiffany?
It's so hard for me to imagine you back, Rick. That's just not in my visual.
Moonwalk.
Yeah.
How about
You a
you, Tiffany?
moonwalker?
I can still do the worm very well. Thank
Oh
you.
my God, I have to see that.
I think I've seen that. I've seen
I'm
that.
sure you have.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
What are your influences?
Yeah,
Um, I grew up on disco. So as a little girl, I was, I loved Diana Ross and Donna Summer, the power vocals of Donna Summer. She was one of my favorites. And then I also really loved Peaches and Herb and Roberta Flack. So those were kind of my favorite acts. My mother's side of the family, Dolly Parton, it was all country.
Oh, yeah.
So the minute that I would walk in my grandmother's house, that's all you heard was country radio, Loretta Lynn, like the real classic country. And then my first concert was Tina
are you
Turner.
originally from Chicago?
No, I'm from Stevens Point, Wisconsin, a small town in Wisconsin. And Lionel Richie and Tina Turner was my first concert.
Wow.
When I was 8 years old. And I loved to sing, but the thing that I loved even more was dancing. When my first year of college, I was a dance minor. And so,
Really? I didn't know that.
yeah, but I couldn't do both. I did not have the time to commit to doing both, and I wanted to sing more. In high school, I was introduced to jazz, and then it was all over. I mean, the depth of harmony and the depth of emotion that I felt from that music just kind of opened me up, and this idea of just freely expressing yourself through improv. Sarah Vaughan, Carmen McRae, those voices
Yeah.
were Betty Carter were what really hit me hard. And so it's always been, I feel very fortunate to have grown up in this very white town, but my mother loved disco, and the influence of my musical upbringing was, disco, soul, um, pop, Motown, which now, I mean, Motown was pop,
Yep.
Barry Gordy, it was a pop machine. So,
Yeah, it was.
yep. So I feel very fortunate that I grew up on that. And the only jazz was this will kind of tell you how old I am, an 8-track Chuck Mangione.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's when I was really little, and I would listen to that ba, 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 da,
Hmm.
la, da, la, da, and just sing along to that little trumpet line over and over.
Solid gold.
Now, my audio keeps dropping in and out. I might disappear. So I don't know if I didn't hear exactly where you are originally from, Tiff.
Wisconsin. So a small town called Stevens Point, which is north of
Okay.
Madison.
Okay.
Yeah. And Rick, Herbie Hancock, who else?
Yeah.
Okay.
So for me,
You can hear me. Okay.
growing up in Normal, Illinois, it wasn't a lot of music. My dad was he's a professional organist and a professor, and he played in churches, and he did a little touring himself back in the day, and but yeah, all classical. Bach is his main dude. So I heard a lot of that. I turned a lot of pages, sitting on the organ bench, but and I studied classical music growing up. And it's funny, the story was, I think I was maybe 14, 15, and I finally, after just begging my parents to quit, they let me quit taking lessons, and then I immediately went and bought a keyboard and continued to play, but in a different style. So I started playing in bands right then. Actually, speaking of country, I was in a band called the Duke Bab Band, which was basically kind of country variety. And Duke was this larger than life figure down there that he had bands over the years, and he built converted a school bus into a touring bus. He pulled out half the seats, and yeah, I had the gear in the back and the band in the front, and we toured all over the Midwest, playing a lot of like military bases and things like that. And so that's kind of where I cut my teeth. That was all like pop, top 40 music as well as some country. I remember there's one of my favorite country songs. Operator, operator, put me through to Decatur. Anyone?
I don't know that.
It's Pork and the Havana Ducks, I believe, was the artist anyway.
Definitely don't know that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, so yeah, but musically myself, so my brother was a big influence on me. He's 5 years older. He was into the prog rock of that era, like Genesis, King Crimson, Bill Bruford, all that. UK was a big band that I loved. Eddie Jobson was the keyboard player that just blew me away. And then, later I got into the jazz world, and definitely Herbie when I found those records. I mean, I knew Herbie from Rocket, right? And the breakdance.
Mm-hmm.
And I followed his records after that. He did a couple more of those similar vein. And then I decided, well, I love his stuff now. What did he do? What was he doing in the 70s? And that's when I found those early funk records, Headhunters and Thrust, Manchild, all those early records. It just blew me. I mean, I just knew like I connected with something that was in me that I just didn't realize, And once I heard that, it was like, this is what I'm meant to do, And so since then, I've always kind of followed his career, artists that have worked with him, and then, like I said, I moved to Chicago in what was it, like 93, I think it was, and I studied at the American Conservatory of Music with my original teacher was Roger Harris, who's still working around Chicago, and learned a lot from him and got introduced to some musicians, and that's where I met Clyde and Jerry and those guys. That was through Roger, as well as I started playing with a band called Jabon with Jesse Richardson and some other guys, Chip Dubois, and they later became part of a band called Robert Cornelius 7 that I played in. And then Robert was in Poi Dog as well. So that's how I got there. But so I've always had this weird connection with funk music, and I couldn't tell you exactly where it comes from because I didn't get a lot of that influence at home. My dad was into Bach, and he had no real interest in popular music music of this century, let's say. That's not totally true.
Okay.
Music around the house.
Yeah. But my brother was definitely a big influence. And I remember getting those early rap records, again, kind of following that. Like I had all the Run DMCs and those 12 inches. And my brother he was a drummer, so he would help me take apart those beats, which were all very simple, of course, but I learned to play the beats on drums before I even really was. I mean, I was playing piano all along through my lessons, and but yeah, I really got into like hearing produced music and how it was put together back with those records. And I remember like learning the beats on drums first. So
Wow. Interesting.
Fun.
Cool, man.
All right. So I want to thank everyone for taking their time out to watch this and to participate. And yeah, we'll do it again. I think hopefully we can all work on another track together soon. And if not, we've got some other gems in the vaults that we can pull out and do something like this for those. So The track again is called "Kiss Me, Hug Me." It's up on Bandcamp. I think it's Mr Egg Germ .bandcamp.com. I'll put a link in the video description. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks, everyone.
Play us the music again a little bit more on the way out.
Good idea.
And Tiff,
Right.
you got my email address. We can continue our conversation.
Sure, I'll do it.
There's the booty.
Okay.
There's the Booty Movement Coalition.
At the bottom of it.
Oh my God! Wow.
That's not my booty, but actually it is.
Wow. Hey guys, we were chatting with you
We
all.
were something brand new, something I hope that was true. Now I'm thinking about all the times we had when you didn't come through.
Kiss me, hug me, let me know.
Kiss me, hug me,
Kiss me, hug me, let me go.
let me go.
I wanna let you kiss me, hug me, let me know.
Kiss me, hug me, oh.
Kiss me, hug me, let me go. Kiss me, hug me, let me know.
Kiss me, hug me, let me know.
Kiss me, hug me, let me go.
Baby, 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 let me go.
Kiss me, hug me, let me go. Just wanna kiss you. Kiss me, hug me, let me go.
You say you wanna go back to when it was new. I like to think we could get back.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
All right, see you later, everybody.
You, peace.